He was a shadow in the corner of the kennel, mistrust in his eyes, muscles tensed, teeth always slightly bared. The sign outside his cage read, "Danger, do not approach," and nobody did. Not the workers, not the volunteers, not even the seasoned trainers. They called him Shadow, though not because of how he moved, but because that's all he seemed to be. A presence, a threat, a ghost of the dog he once was. No one really knew where he came from. Abandoned in the woods near a burned-out cabin, malnourished, limping, and wild-eyed. Animal control had to tranquilize him just to bring him in. From day one, Shadow made it clear. "Stay away," he growled, if anyone came close. He snapped at anyone who tried to feed him. Lunged at the bars if you looked at him too long. People talked about putting him down. Said he was too far gone. But the manager of the shelter, old Mr. Connors, refused. "We don't destroy what's broken here," he would say. "We try to heal it." But weeks turned into months. Shadow didn't improve. He got stronger and meaner. He wouldn't even let anyone clean his kennel. They had to slide a mop under the bars and hope for the best. Some nights, the other dogs whimpered because Shadow's deep, menacing growl echoed through the halls like a warning from the dark. And then she arrived. Her name was Lily. She was just 7, tiny, with dark curly hair and a voice like wind chimes. She came with her mother every Sunday, not to adopt, just to help. Her mom was a vet tech and volunteered at the shelter. Lily loved animals. Cats, rabbits, injured birds, even the old blind terrier in the back that everyone else forgot. She adored them all. But that Sunday, Lily wandered. She wasn't supposed to, but she did. And she found herself in the back hall, the hallway of the unadoptables. The dogs with warning signs, the ones who barked like thunder or curled, up in corners with haunted eyes, and that's when she saw him. Shadow, she didn't scream, didn't flinch. When he snarled and threw his body against the bars, she just tilted her head and whispered, "You're not mean. You're scared." Nobody saw her do it. Not that day, but from that moment, something began to change. The next Sunday, she went straight to the back hallway. And again, she stood, there just out of reach, watching him. Shadow snarled again. His lips curled, his eyes flashed, but Lily didn't leave. She sat cross-legged on the floor and began to hum, just softly. A tune only a child would know. A lullaby, maybe. And for the first time in the shelter's history, Shadow didn't bark. Mr. Connors noticed. So did the other staff. They couldn't believe their eyes. The most dangerous dog in the shelter was quiet. Still, watching week by week, Lily returned. She never crossed the line, never reached out. She simply sat and talked to him. Sometimes she read him stories. Sometimes she just told him about her week. Shadow didn't respond, but he didn't attack either. And that was progress. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a rainy Thursday when they brought in a new trainer. A big man with leather gloves and a booming voice. He believed in tough love for difficult dogs, and he'd heard about Shadow. "I'll break him," he said, laughing. Mr. Connors warned him. "That dog doesn't respond to force." But the trainer didn't listen. He walked into the kennel, gloves on, leash in hand. Shadow bared his teeth immediately. The trainer barked commands. Shadow growled louder. And then chaos. Shadow lunged with a scream that shook the walls. Teeth sank into leather, then flesh, blood. Screams. Kennel workers rushing in. Tranquilizers again. The hallway smelled like fear and pain. After that, the board of directors made a decision. Shadow would be put down. It was too dangerous. There were tears in the shelter that day. Not everyone liked Shadow, but they'd all seen the small glimmer of hope in him. And now, it was over. The news reached Lily's mother first. "He just needs someone to love him." But her mom shook her head. "Sweetheart, sometimes love isn't enough. Some dogs can't be saved." But Lily didn't accept that. She refused. That Sunday, she showed up anyway. With a blue backpack and a serious look in her eyes. Inside was a peanut butter sandwich, Shadow's favorite smell. She wasn't supposed to be there. The kennel had been closed off. Shadow had been moved to isolation. But Lily knew the codes, knew the doors. And she slipped inside, quiet as a shadow herself. She found his cage in the dark. And Shadow found her. He growled, low and deep. A sound that could have made a grown man freeze. But Lily didn't stop. She sat, as always, just outside the bars. "I know you're scared," she whispered, "but I'm not going to hurt you. I'm your friend, and I won't let them take you away." Then she reached into her backpack, slowly, carefully, and she pulled out the sandwich. Shadow's eyes followed it. He didn't lunge, didn't snarl. He just stared, and then, for the first time, he sat, his ears tilted forward, his head low. He sniffed the air like a dog, not a monster. Lily held the sandwich between the bars, her tiny hand trembling. Shadow crept forward, inch by inch. Time froze, and then he took it, not with a snap, not with a growl, but gently, carefully, as if afraid he might scare her away. That was the moment Mr. Connors walked in. He gasped, nearly shouted. But Lily raised her hand. "Don't," she whispered. "He's okay. He's not mean. He's just hurt." Mr. Connors stared at the scene. The untouchable dog, sitting quietly beside a 7-year-old girl. The same dog that had attacked grown men, now licking peanut butter off small fingers. It was a miracle, or maybe it's just love. The board's decision was delayed. "Let's see what happens," Mr. Connors said. So Lily became part of the program, Shadow's official handler. She visited 3 times a week now. She brought treats, toys, and sometimes just her presence. Shadow stopped growling. He stopped lunging. He even let the other workers clean his kennel so long as Lily was near. But not everyone was happy. Some said it was too dangerous, that it was reckless to trust a child with such a volatile animal. And then something happened that would test everything. It was a stormy day. The child had wandered into the wrong part of the shelter. A sudden boom of thunder had spooked. The dogs, barking, panic, confusion. The child tripped and fell near. Shadow's kennel, the door wasn't latched. Time stopped. Shadow stepped out. The workers screamed. Someone reached for the emergency tranquilizer. But Shadow didn't bite, didn't growl. He trotted up to the crying child, gently nudged her face with his nose. He licked away her tears. When Lily arrived minutes later, Shadow was sitting beside the girl, tail wagging slowly. Child was hugging him like a stuffed toy. The shelter erupted, not in chaos, but in applause. In awe, the monster was gone. All that remained was a dog who had remembered what it meant to love. But Lily, she had a secret. One she hadn't told anyone yet. One that would soon change everything. Again, Lily sat alone on the swing set behind the shelter, her sneakers barely touching the muddy ground. The sky was gray, as if the clouds were holding their breath. Inside her jacket pocket was the letter, the one from the hospital. She hadn't told anyone. Not her mother, not Mr. Connors, and definitely not Shadow. Because how do you tell a dog that you're leaving? Lily had leukemia. It had come back. The doctors called it a relapse. She called it unfair. She had already done the chemo. Already lost her hair once. She thought it was over. But now, she only had a few months. She folded the letter and tucked it away, just as Shadow came running around the corner. Yes, running, not skulking. Not prowling, running, with his tongue out and tail wagging like any other dog. She smiled as he bounded toward her, skidding in the dirt and nearly knocking her off the swing. "Easy, goofball," she giggled, wrapping her arms around his thick neck. "You're not a wolf anymore." He licked her cheek. It had been 6 weeks since the day Shadow saved the lost little girl, and everything had changed. He had become a different dog, trusting, loyal, protective. But only around Lily. That bond was still sacred. The board of directors had reversed their decision. Shadow would not be put down. He would be rehabilitated. Trained for potential adoption under special circumstances, but the trainers couldn't make it work. Shadow wouldn't respond to anyone but Lily. If she wasn't in the room, he growled. If someone tried to leash him, he bared his teeth. With Lily, he would roll onto his back like a puppy. That's when someone had the idea. What if we trained him as a service dog? One of the newer volunteers suggested. Not for everyone, just for her. Mr. Connors was hesitant at first. The risk, the time, the liability. But he watched them together. How Shadow followed her voice like a lighthouse in the fog. How his body tensed when she coughed. How he barked whenever she looked too tired. It was as if he already was her service dog, so the training began. It wasn't easy. Shadow had triggers, fast movements, loud voices, male handlers. But when Lily was there, he listened. Spoke, he obeyed. Slowly, the trainers began to work through the barriers. And Shadow bloomed. He learned how to stay, how to fetch her medication bag, how to press the emergency button in the event of a fall. He even learned to detect when her blood pressure dropped, nudging her gently and barking to alert staff. But Lily. She was fading. She got tired more easily now. Sometimes she missed a session. Other times, she just sat on the bench while Shadow curled up beside her. She tried to hide the pain, but Shadow knew. He always knew. One day she collapsed during training. Shadow barked like thunder, pawed at her chest, even licked her lips. The emergency team arrived in minutes thanks to him. The hospital kept her for 2 weeks. Shadow refused to eat, refused to be touched. He paced outside her empty kennel, wind in his sleep, and snapped at anyone who tried to comfort him. Even Mr. Connors couldn't reach him. But the day Lily returned pale, thinner, wrapped in a scarf, Shadow transformed. He bounded toward her, tail whipping, whining like a baby. He sat at her feet, guarding her like a soldier. You missed. Me, huh? She whispered, stroking his ears. I missed you too. That was when her mother made the hardest decision of all. They were moving. Not just out of town, out of state. There was a clinical trial in another city. One of the last chances Lily had. It would be long, grueling, uncertain, and there was no way they could bring a dog like Shadow, not one with a record, not one so attached to a single child. They had to leave him behind. The shelter agreed to keep Shadow indefinitely. Mr. Connors even offered to foster him. But the moment Lily hugged him that last time, Shadow knew. He howled, a sound no one had heard from him before.
Oh.
A sound of loss, of grief. Lily buried her face in his fur and whispered, "Don't forget me." Okay. And then days passed, then weeks. Shadow grew quiet. Not aggressive, just hollow. He didn't play, didn't bark, barely ate. He lay in his kennel, head on his paws, staring at the gate, waiting 1 month later. A letter arrived. It was from Lily. She wrote to Mr. Connors, but asked him to read it aloud to Shadow. The old man thought it silly at first. But that night, as the other dogs slept, he sat beside Shadow's cage and unfolded the letter. Hi, Shadow, the letter began. I miss you more than anything. The hospital here is really big and smells weird. But there's a nice nurse who gives me lemon lollipops. I asked for peanut butter ones for you, but they said they don't exist. Mr. Connors smiled and kept reading. I sleep a lot now. The medicine makes me tired, but I dream about you. About the day you let me pet you for the first time. About how you always knew when I was sad. You're not a bad dog, Shadow. You never. You were just waiting for the right person. I'm so lucky that person was me. Shadow's ears twitched. His head lifted. I don't know if I'll get better, but I want you to promise me something. Promise you'll be brave, that you'll let someone else love you. You don't have to growl anymore. You're safe now. Mr. Connors paused, clearing his throat and Shadow. The next day, something changed. He walked to the fence during recess. Let a volunteer toss him a tennis ball. He even wagged his tail, just once. Hope returned. Months passed. Shadow began working with new trainers. Slowly, they exposed him to other people, other children. At first, he hesitated. But every time he got nervous, someone would play a recording of Lily's voice reading her favorite story. That always calmed him. Eventually, they placed him in a trial foster home, a A quiet woman with a big backyard and no children. Shadow adjusted cautiously at first. But one day the woman tripped in the garden. Shadow ran to her side, barked until the neighbors came. He was ready. 2 months later, Shadow was officially listed as adoptable. The shelter put together a strict set of guidelines. Only special homes, only handlers trained in trauma dogs. He was ready. The adoption event was planned for Saturday morning. The staff printed his story on a poster board. How a little girl saved a broken dog. The picture of Lily holding Shadow's face in her hands sat beside his kennel. Dozens came. Some walked past, some inquired, but no one quite fit, until a silver car pulled up near the entrance. Lily stepped out, thinner, paler, but standing, walking, alive. She had finished her trial early. It hadn't cured her completely, but it had slowed everything down, given her time, and all she wanted was to see him. Shadow saw her before anyone else did. He didn't bark, didn't run. He froze. And then, slowly, he walked to the edge of the fence. Lily stepped forward, her eyes full of tears. She knelt, held out her hand and whispered, "I kept my promise." "Did you?" Shadow leapt into her arms. The staff cried. Mr. Connors wiped his glasses for the third time, and Lily just laughed. They couldn't adopt him officially, too. Many medical complications. Too many risks. But a decision was made. Shadow would live with Mr. Connors, and every weekend, Lily would visit. They became legends in the town. The girl who saved the wolf who saved her back. Shadow lived. Another 6 years. He never bit another person, never growled in fear. He slept beside Lily's bed when she visited, licked her face every morning, waited at the gate every Sunday. When he passed, it was peaceful in his sleep. Curled up at Lily's feet at his funeral, she whispered one last time, "You weren't broken. We're just waiting to